Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SouthLAnder 2021, the second season of SouthLAnder. We're jumping on into the semi-final. Sussex are taking on Exeter. I'm Milky Serial, joined by Melvin is all. Melvin, our first time together in the commentary booth. I'm excited, not just for the game, but to develop some good old casting synergy as well.
Absolutely so. It should be fun. I have always loved the southern end of the university circuit for League of Legends, and frankly, as a previous Exeter student, I'm pretty excited for this matchup.
Am I detecting a hint of bias that'll be potentially creeping into the cast?
No bias. I didn't play with any of these players. I did go back and double check there were no name changes, so I'm one step removed. No bias here. Just as excited to see Rift Slayers play for Sussex, and frankly, we got some pretty even matchups across the board with regards to just one-on-ones in these lanes.
And one of the biggest things coming on into this is Sussex took down Portsmouth, who were your Season 1 champions. They took them down 2-0 in the quarterfinals. Exeter taking down Swansea 2-1 in the other quarterfinal matchup. So both these teams are coming on fairly confidently. And don't forget, both of these teams had buys. They were seeded straight on into the quarterfinals. So they have just had that one series so far in the SouthLAnder 2021 tournament.
And they clearly deserved it as our 2 and 3 seeds. They are vying for the chance to fight Bristol next week, presumably in the finals. Obviously, there's the chance for an upset. We very well might see Bath take them down. They have come off of a week for the Newell, at least, for Bristol. So anything's up in the air for today, and with regards to this matchup, it's going to be very exciting to see how these teams try and develop across this best of 3.
And you mentioned the ability to develop over the course of the best of 3, but I want to take a look towards game 1. What do we expect to be making its way through onto the Rift? We were talking a little bit before about the changes that have come through to Samira, no longer able to dash to her allied minions, but not necessarily a super weak champion as most people may be assuming currently.
Certainly so. Most of her numbers actually got overall buffs, including her scalings on the most recent patch. And while, yes, you do lose that versatility and the safety of being able to dash through allies that made her ever so just deadly in lane for the sake of, well, you can't really gank her. If your support has mobility, Samira de facto gets mobility. So it's like, okay, well, you're a hyper teamfight carry that one-shots everybody and dashes away, but now it's just a lot more skill intensive in the laning of it, because it's not so much like a Ezreal, and now it's closer to an Aphelios, where you can still fight when they come to gank you, but you have to fight. You can't ever retreat.
You no longer have that ability to just play super aggressively. If you do make mistakes, they can now be punished so much more easily. You can get ganked down. I want to talk a little bit towards the top lane, because we have been seeing some spicy picks coming through in the top, especially when we look towards the likes of the LEC. Been seeing some Yone making its way through. Any chance that we could be seeing Yasuo's, as I like to say, evil brother making his way to the Rift?
Perhaps not in the top lane, but we definitely do have some Yasuo and Yone proficiency from Sana Owo in the mid lane of EXE Machina, so there is the potential for either of those brothers to make their way in. With regards to the top lane, though, there's a lot of carry champions on the table from every walk of life. I'm happy to say that there's some Alawi that very well may make its way through the ban phase, and it's going to be one of those games of, it's just that level of play where, am I scared of that one trick more than I'm scared of the Camille? Am I scared of that one trick more than I am of insert Stridebreaker champion here? Hard to say. It's a best of 3, so you can adapt to it. It's mainly just the first game in a series is always, okay, what are we confident to play against? Because if they lose on it, and we let it through, then in the second game, it makes your pick ban so much easier.
Would you rather play against an Alawi or a Gnar? Would you rather play against a Rengar or what's strong in the jungle? Udyr. Ban Udyr. Udyr is horrible. No, I don't want to see no Udyr. Unless, no, just ban Udyr. It's going to be one-sided. I don't want to see any bears coming through on to the Rift. But speaking of the jungle, you were actually talking a little bit to me about the Hecarim before we did come live.
Yes, this is one of the few champions that both junglers have in their immediate pool. They are a terror on the Rift, pairs so nicely with these enchanters like Seraphine, like Karma, that while they're not the most fun to watch in of themselves, they definitely act as disgusting enablers for a lot of these carries that we see in the meta. And With regards to Hecarim, just as they are, they're just at that level of you can bully them when they're very weak, but if you don't, they will be able to just stampede over you all the way up until 3 items, and even then it's not that much of a drop-off compared to other champions that are very strong early and then fall off late.
The weird thing for me with regards to Hecarim is I've always remembered Hecarim. Part of me is still in Season 10, and I always remember Hecarim as the guy who goes for, is it the AD jungle item, goes in with the Trinity Force, gets lots of damage, but now we're seeing Turbo Chem Tank coming through on Hecarim, and I'm just a poor play-by-play caster, Melvin. It scares me.
It should. They go very quickly, and it is quite oppressive because something we haven't seen too much that has really torn up solo queue is this Ignite Smite Hecarim that just means that it counteracts that early levels where you could invade Hecarim and bully them because yes, while they don't have mobility, they still do a disgusting amount of damage and can take those 1v1s against the likes of Olaf and these kind of champs. So as we jump into champ select, we'll have to see which hits the ban desk and what actually gets picked up. Keep your eyes out for that Hecarim.
I remember a very specific quote from you, Melvin, which was, Camille or Illaoi? And Sussex say, we'd rather face the Illaoi here. Camille is the first ban off the table.
Yeah, that is certainly one way to throw down the gauntlet, and frankly, there's still the chance that both of them might hit the desk if I am looking for this. Just looking at where everybody is, as that is L9 hoodie owner, or as they will be called, hoodie owners Illaoi, that we need to keep an eye out. So actually, they're taking away the Camille, which means that the Illaoi is even more of a threat for the enemy team. This is just looking at when you're red side, this is the point where you struggle to ban out pocket picks because you have to get rid of the OPs. Hecarim instantly goes up in prio because the enemy can first pick it. Udyr goes up in prio, enemy can first pick it. Illaoi, well, they don't have to first pick it, right? Because you're not taking it away from them. So this is why it's so scary to ban out pocket picks on red side.
Well, Exeter, they're still scared of the Illaoi nonetheless. They have to get rid of it, and that is what they do. Still got the likes of the Kai'Sa, the ADC pool largely untouched at the moment as the entire focus is going towards the jungle and the top lane from both sides.
And something that we haven't seen hit the ban desk yet is Malt's, or Matt's even, Vi. This is by far their most played champion, and it is something that I was curious to see if it would get target banned. It looks like, no, we're just opting for the OPs to get off the table, which is pretty amusing because as somebody called Trick2Deer, you would ideally want Udyr making it through ban phase one way or the other, but playing against it, still a very oppressive champion.
Well, the Senna does get locked in. We've still got some of the supports like the Scion available. Maybe we could be seeing the fasting Senna coming through. Are you a fan of a fasting Senna here, Melvin?
I think it's more so what you pair it with, because I think in of itself, Senna is just a ticking time bomb, where the second they're locked in, eventually they will just become it might as well be a Night Blue title of 1000 range, 2-shot you, every ability. Like, this champion gets so insane in the late game against tanks, against squishies. Any single member cannot really fight them. But the problem is, if you pair it with something defensive, like the Tahm Kench, you cede a lot of pressure in that bot lane, especially against something like Mafia Goat's Alistair. These are champions where it's like, okay, well, do you take the fight against them? Or do you opt for something of, we're going to give away the lane, you could go roam and pressure our lanes, and it's just hoping we're good enough individually to avoid it.
Now, that boy on the center could be a huge, huge issue. The Evelynn has been locked in. That is something that will almost certainly be able to get into the backline and one-shot center. But Sussex, they could draft stuff like the Vice, stuff that can prevent the Evelynn from approaching the center in the backline.
And if this Gragas does come out, that is a potential flex pick, because this champion has been so prevalent in the meta just because, okay, great top, great support, good for tanky, can still go AP jungle, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, Vi's already locked in, so it's one route removed, but when you come into the second rotation of bans, you kind of get stuck when the enemy team has flexes, because you don't really have a reliable path to ban out now. It's just looking at it, well, we can't ban supports, we can't ban tops, so we just have to ban mids in the second rotation, otherwise we're flipping it and hoping.
I'm feeling champions like the Orianna here could be very strong for Sussex. Exeter going to be locking in the Sivir. This is a lot of safety in the bottom lane from Exeter.
Yeah, certainly so. Just taking a look at how it goes, the Alistair acts as pretty nice disengage, and even against something like the Vi, they do get to ult onto whoever they choose. But you can't really do that to Sivir, because if they manage to get the spell shield, and it's almost like a game of chess where you just have to see who moves first, who smites. Does Vi use the blue smite to pop the Sivir shield early? When do they do it? Because Sivir can reactively press that shield. So that's really skillful between the two right there. That's an interaction that I really want to take a look at when it gets to that level 6 mark.
Seraphine banned away from Sussex, and Malphite will be taken away from Exeter. Fiora banned coming through, which, to be honest, when someone is called a Fiora nice, banning away the Fiora makes sense.
Pretty much, it's just something that you don't really want on the table. You do have red side though, so it is the kind of thing that you could have potentially saved your top for last pick and not had to do that. But better to be safe than sorry if you're not confident with your cast of top laners into Fiora, especially when it includes things like Camille, Olaf, these kind of almost scrappy champions that want to fight you in the 1v1. Maybe just best to leave Fiora, and there's that Yone you wanted to see.
And I was wondering for Exeter, do they want to ban, or do they want to be picking mid and end up having the counter for top, or vice versa? Well, the Yone could technically flex into either mid or top, depending on what Sussex lot in here. We'll have to see whether the Gragas will be a support Gragas or will be heading to the top lane. And with the Wukong being hovered, it does look like a support Gragas.
To be fair, there is always Senna Wukong. That was the first almost iteration of this fasting Senna build, was something that the Mad Lions and LEC did pull out and really popularized it. So I actually quite like this as a lock-in, because they can put Gragas in top or Wukong, and it means that you're almost limited, because if you pick an AD top, Wukong has that passive that is basically Conqueror for armor at this point. So the longer they're in combat, the more armor they get, the harder they are to kill in these fights. Whereas if you put the Gragas up there, that's just a hard disengaged top that can almost shake off anybody but the stickiest of targets.
What do Exeter want to lock in to round out their composition? Will it be Yone top? No, it will not. It's going to be Bjorn heading in the top lane, and it will be Yone versus Fizz in the mid lane.
Okay, well that is a signature pick for them. Behind that, Alawi, Fizz is one of their next most played. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they can pull out this fringe pick against something that is much more popular of the Yone, where you've seen enough Yone games at this point. If it's not been banned in every game you play, you know roughly what they do, but Fizz is a champion that always just skirts on the edge of the meta. When there's enough squishies in, he's popular. When there's not, okay, well you don't really want to play him in a tank meta because they do not offer that constant DPS. Against a Yone Evelyn though, that's a pretty good mid 2v2 to start popping when you get to level 6.
I'm looking at the composition from Sussex as you've got this fringe pick, I guess, as you mentioned, of the Fizz. You've got the Vi, two champions that we don't see a lot of in competitive play. I really like the Senna Gragas. You know, there's the peel for the Senna. It gives safety to that boy, just to be able to constantly fire off those autos. I can't remember the exact term that you use, something about 2,000 range and two-shot Senna to really be able to pop off come the late game. But this Vi and Fizz, does it sit in the composition well for you?
I think, as far as it goes, they have good targets. Evelyn has no meaningful way of escape. They can press R, but then you've burnt the defensive ultimate for Evelyn. And at that point, she doesn't contribute too much to fights, especially when you have tools like this Gragas, like this Wukong, the follow-up CC behind Vi. It's really good. I think it complements the team nicely. For the Fizz, I think they, again, have good targets. The ultimate will follow Yone through their E, so that's something to be pretty scared of. If they time it just right, they can throw the shark where Yone is going to pop back to onto their soul, and that is a really oppressive interaction. This is why we've seen things like Orianna be locked in against Yone, Syndra, these kind of not necessarily unreliable CC champions, but ones where if you pop out in somewhere reliably, almost like Zoe does with her portal jump, you're dead. You're just dead.
You do have to use the Soul Unbound cautiously if you are Sana on this Yone, and we'll see how that mid lane matchup goes. But when I look at the composition of Exeter, they've got the engage with the likes of the Call of the Forge God, but then on top of that, they have the On the Hunt from the Sivir. So whenever they want, they can just press the R and run at Sussex. And the only disengaged tool that I really see from Sussex is that explosive Cascot from Royal Scrygas.
I think that's certainly true. However, one additional tool that they have that always goes, I'm not going to say unnoticed, but it's something that's very significant, is that Senna Shroud. When she pulls that out, Evelyn, a point-and-click based champion, if she can't W you to get that charm on initially, then they can't really go for the fight, because Evelyn needs that initial poke onto you to really like commit to any of these tankier members. And as far as the Senna and the Fizz go, yeah, they can try and get them, but Fizz has a de facto way to avoid Evelyn's burst, and Senna will be the one in the E, so it's going to be a bit harder for them to try and navigate these fights, even with all the teams engaged. If it's coordinated well, though, it can go pretty destructive for the Exeter squad.
And I do want to talk about this in more detail, how both teams want to fight, because surely for Trick 2 there on this Evelyn, he's going to be wanting to play the assassin. He's going to want to be lurking in the shadows, staying out of vision, you know, using that sweepers to make sure he's undetected, to get in the backline, find that one shot onto that boy when the rest of Sussex are, let's say, tunnel visioned and focused on the rest of Exeter looking to run them down. They've got Sana on this Yone who can just absolutely rush on in with the Soul Unbound. Do Exeter want to be playing, you know, as a group of 5, or do they want to be playing 1-4 split push? And what about for Sussex?
I think it's quite interesting, because I've just been going back and forth when I was looking at them, thinking, who actually scales better in this comp? And I think it puts a lot of priority on those early dragons, because if you can threaten a soul in this game, that almost swings it for you, because when you look at how both teams want to play, things like the Yone, they're happy to be in a side lane. They're very oppressive because they don't need to commit to actually trading with you. Fizz, however, also quite likes being in a side lane for the obvious reasons. Evelyn is inherently a champion that wants you to 1-3-1, because that way you split up, people have to be on their own, and then you can insta-force 2v1s onto anybody that splits up a bit too much. But then you have the Senna, who can defensively ult and save people. So it's really back and forth, and it's very much going to be down to just which style the teams want to opt into, because both comps have a lot of options.
This actually translates quite nicely to the next point I wanted to bring up, which is what do we want to see both teams play around early? Where do we want to see junglers put their resources? And from what you were saying, Melvin, I'm getting the feeling that we're going to be seeing a fair amount of focus towards those early drakes.
I think so, very much. I want Vi, really, in this game to be the driving force. They need to be the one getting proactive stuff down, getting almost pressure onto Evelyn before 6, because pre-6, Evelyn really struggles. If they don't get to charm you, they just have a weaker base kit than most champions. Because in reality, that ability, the alert, is so destructive for her, because she shreds an insane percentage of MR, meaning that throughout the game, they always have kill pressure onto anybody, tanks included. But in that very early pre-6, when they don't have the invis, they don't have as many just kill threat onto people, then they're really the weak point that we can see start to get exploited from the Sussex squad.
And at the end of the day, format on this Vi, the Vi is an early game jungler. The Evelyn is not. There's a lot of jungle advantage that Matt should be able to gain, whether that's from being able to farm up quickly, whether that's from being able to invade into Trick 2D as a jungle. But at the end of the day, Sussex need to find a jungle difference in the early 10 minutes of this game.
Certainly so. Hoodiona is far more reliant on this Fizz on getting ahead early, as opposed to Sana on the Yone. That one is a bit more so if they do have the ability to recover into the game if they aren't snowballed as much, and they always have the disgusting instant teamfight snapping ultimate. That if they can follow that up off of Refresh's Ornn or Mafia Goat's Engage, then you know what? The teamfight can already just be won by that. Like, both teams have a pretty decent wombo combo, but I think in the 5v5, I would generally favour Exeter unless they're too far behind at that point.
We saw Hoodiona drop it down the blue trinket on Raptors, and that should give some information as to Trick 2D's pathing. One of the question marks that I do have, and again, this is looking over that early aggression that we could potentially be seeing around those Drakes, is at the end of the day, this is a Sivir and a Senna we are talking about. These are two champions that want to be scaling up. But as I say that, we can notice that there is a certain keystone that has been picked up by the Sivir. Dark Harvest coming through, and now I'm getting a sneaky suspicion that we've got Lethality Sivir coming in.
I think this is almost like the prevailing Sivir build at this rate, where they go for, I believe it's the Duskblade and the Mirror Mana together. Mirror Mana received a pretty substantial buff on this patch with regards to just how some of the numbers are calculated for these ability-based champions, which means that Lasp's Q is going to be pretty gross in these fights. It will chunk out at a meaningful range, which is really good. As we can see here, it rivals that boy's autos, which, when you're playing against Senna, getting any kind of actual poke down on the champion without having to commit is really, really important.
And when you look at the composition of Sussex, with the exception of Royal, and even maybe not even excluding Fiora Nice, because as you mentioned, the way the passive works is the Wukong gains armor the longer he's in combat for. When that boomerang blade comes through, that can chip away so much at the health bars of the Sussex members and make it so difficult for them to then be able to contest in any subsequent fights.
Absolutely, and you really never want to be below 60% HP against the Exeter squad, because the potential for Yone to just pop over a wall and ult you, or Evelyn to be lurking around a corner, means that it's very scary for Sussex to be at those lower thresholds. So you could kind of start to get now how they want to play a fight, trying to poke out with this Sivir pick, and then just have the beefy frontline enable the two carries of the Yone and the Evelyn when it comes to almost just cleaning up after the fact.
Actually seeing Mort making his way down towards the mid lane will clear away this ward. He does get spotted out. Royal taken down low on the bottom side of the map. And actually, we're seeing a fairly substantial CS lead starting to come in for Trick2Day, who has actually got a reset off as well.
Yeah, they have managed to come off a base after full clearing and managed to get a Scuttle Crab. That's pretty significant, considering that there could have been a lot of power put out by this Vi in the earlier levels to negate that, as this is quite the committal.
Very aggressive from Hoodie Owner, and he gets punished for it. He saw Trick2Day there, but I think he just got very greedy for some minions.
Yeah, Trick2Day was just doing... I like what they were doing there of just escorting the wave in so it doesn't get frozen in front of tower. Because if that happens, then Sana is in a really rough spot, because you don't have the ability to shove it there, and Vi could come around at any point and just collapse onto you. But a pretty strange engage. It looked like they were just trying to poke out Sana and almost dissuade them from shoving, but in that many minions, that's never going to work.
First blood going the way of University of Exeter. And that's going to be a first blood that Sana will be very happy to have on this Yone. We've seen what Yones can do even from when they're behind, once they do hit those item power spikes. And now with a Vampiric Scepter coming in for the Yone, it's just going to be even more survivability in the lane. And we're seeing Hoodie trading in aggressively. I don't think you want to be doing that this early on, because Sana's just going to heal right on up from these minions.
I mean, just look at the XP difference. This is level 4 to level 5 because of how much just of the minion wave was under the turret there. As soon as Hoodie died, give or take 8 minions, including a siege, ended up going down. And this Yone is going to tag 6 off of this wave, I'm pretty sure, which is really not a spot you want to be in as the Fizz.
Hoodie does have the Ignite available, and Sana does not. And there is the level 6 available, the Fate sealed. And Hoodie is just playing defensively. Whenever that ultimate comes through, he can just hop on to his Trident and be able to find a bit of counterplay. But now that that's been used, he is really susceptible. There it comes through. The Fate unsealed, or pardon me, the Fate sealed. And it's just a free kill for Sana as Hoodie completely disrespects the matchup.
Yeah, just truly actually not respecting what Yone can do there. I think they went for that exact same trade pattern of Q forward, auto, E away, or the reverse even, about 4 times throughout this lane that we have just seen. So, good read by Sana to say, okay, well, if they're going to keep running this back, I'm going to punish you for it. Attempted invade, didn't get much off of that Trick2Day, but nonetheless, your Yone is absurdly far ahead right now. They can still get collapsed on, though, by this Vi and Fizz combo, so they are never safe in this lane, as that's quite the force.
top laners will be roaming down. The Assault and Battery coming through. Trick 2 there, forced to flash away, will burn the smite. Now has a Chilling Smite available. Cyclone coming in. The full collapse and knockup from the Call of the Forge God. Last Crest comes through right into the path of Hoodie Owner, who picks up his first kill of the game.
And that was critical right there. Trick 2 did manage to secure the Skull Crab, just barely edging over to that last embrace, but it's not going to save them in the end. A lot of flashes burnt though. 2 from the side of Sussex, and Trick 2G is all down. That means now this Vi is susceptible to invades. This Evelyn is susceptible to invades, because especially for Evelyn, they do not have any mobility. Without the ult or without the flash for the next minute or so, I really want to see Sussex try and force onto them. But unfortunately, with the pushing mid and bot lanes, I don't think they're going to be able to.
The one person on Sussex that you do not want to be giving kills over to is Hoodie Owner on this Fizz. He now has a kill, and after Sana had done such a good job to shut the Fizz down, making the Fizz go 0-2, nearly double the CS of a Hoodie Owner. All of a sudden, now there are 2 stacks on the Dark Seal for Hoodie Owner, and maybe a potential for Sussex's mid laner to come back into this game.
While Yone can be a pretty difficult champion to face off, this is a Fizz with Ignite and a Vi in the pocket. So they are not going to be able to take these 1v2s realistically until they tag over to Immortal Shield Bow. And frankly, that's going to be a little while away. So as soon as this Vi ult is back up, expect to look at them coming straight into this mid lane.
Trade comes through onto Hoodie Owner. Dashes right on back with the Soul Unbound as Malt shows up.
Not much going to happen here. We've been relatively quiet on the side lanes, and that's just because inherently nothing should happen in either of them, and it's the right thing for both teams to have not let anything happen. It's one of these cases in the bot that I think Rel has a lot of these matchups where whoever engages first usually loses. Because out of the 2, if Gragas goes in, they've already burnt their cooldowns, and then Mafia Goat can just combo them and one-shot with the Sivir. Whereas the other way around, if Alistair goes in, it's the exact same story the other way around. So it's you don't want to engage, you only want to punish a slip-up, and even then you don't want to fully commit.
Something that might spice up the side lane actions. What if, just hear me out on this, Melvin,
Okay.
a 2-0 Yone roamed to one of the side lanes?
I think that might just swing it, but I don't think they really care too much about the sides at the moment. They just want this mid prior.
Oh, this is bad. This is bad. Oh, that is a dirty Trick 2 there, picking up the kill. Malt showing up the Assault and Battery coming through. The collapse now from Exeter. 2-on-1. Malt gets taken down by the last caress, and Exeter pick up their 4th kill of the game.
And such a shame for Matt to come around there. A Hoodie Owner was just barely on the edge of that corner. So normally, when you're against an Evelyn, you would get vision of her right there. But because there was an extra sliver of wall, they never got the vision until they were in melee range. That forces Hoodie Owner to try and escape, burn their cooldowns, nothing going to come of it. And that ends up being 2 kills resulting over. There we go. You can see it right there. Good job from our observer, as it just demonstrates how slight that position is. Even if Fizz had a slightly larger character model, then that would have been okay. But good play by Trick 2G, very good patience to not just sprint it around the corner, as they knew, okay, well the recall's not going to finish yet, so I can take it slow. If they're close, I get them. If not, I can just bully them on the recall and let Sana crash this wave. So
Cyclone on the top side. Oh, what a turnaround coming through. Power of Ornn, and the Wukong gets shut down.
And clearly, Refresh has just been playing this lane well. Look at the CS gap already. That is something of... They have the TP advantage on top of it, but too late mid-fight.
And that is the playful tricks that has been used. A turnaround will surely come in, and Hoodie Owner just gets slaughtered. There's the Chum the Waters that you were talking about, placing it to the previous position of the Soul Unbound. But sadly, a 1-in-3 Fizz at the time does not do much. Shelly will charge forward, first tower down, 11 minutes into the game, Melvin.
And that is a near-on 5k gold lead for Exeter at this point. And while the play made sense for Hoodie Owner, it only makes sense if you're even or ahead. It's too little too late at this point, where if this was a remotely even matchup, if the item difference wasn't there, if the level difference wasn't there, you'd imagine some of these trades would still be going. But they just don't seem to be expressing the same level of restraint you'd like to see when somebody's that far behind us. That looks like a blink coming out in the river. The
railgun comes through, Mort being engaged on, Sana will dash out. The belly slam will deny the engager from Mafia. And here we go, the 4-on-3, the turnaround from Exeter. Malt will get taken down. Royal is next, flashes over the wall. Boomerang Blade will not connect. And because of the Dark Mist comes through, Mafia on the run. The Playful Trickster comes through, but at what cost? Because the Fizz will get slaughtered. Trick 2 here onto a killing spree. 8 kills to 2, 12 minutes into the game.
And these are the people you didn't want fed on the enemy team. Evelyn and Yone will do so much with this gold. You can see Evelyn has already ticked over to Mythic. They have the Rocket Belt in inventory. Not only that, they have Pen Boots, and on top of that, an 8-stack Dark Seal. This is an insane amount of damage they can pump out. You could see the gold lead right there was just hilariously on the mid and jungle duo. It is almost completely on it. Ornn has managed to pick themselves up a big lead, and considering that if you look at the bot lane, you have to look at them as pairings with this fasting duo, the bot's about equal, so it's really just mid jungle that is actually doing the diffy here.
Sussex came into this game having taken down the reigning champions Portsmouth 2-0 in the quarterfinals. They came into this first game of the best of the 3, and they said, we will take the Vi jungle, we will take the Fizz mid, we will pull out these non-meta picks and see what you have as a response, Exeter. And Exeter have said, take your picks, we will slaughter them.
Yeah, just standard League of Legends champions coming up very nicely here. And you can see that the Yone has just ticked over to level 11 now. That is an absurd lead over the entire enemy team. That is, yeah. Even jungle now is ahead of mid, as this is a hard dive.
Call of the Forge God lands onto both the clone and the real thing. Trick 2 there picks up the kill. The second tower shot. Oh, the burn. Not quite enough. Refresh will be able to survive. Beautifully executed by Exeter.
At a sliver of HP, but Matt right here in a very susceptible position on this Vi. They're starting up the blue, and they are certainly in danger.
Oh, just playing right outside of the vision, and Matt goes right on into Sana. The caress will surely connect. There's the charm, there's the kill, and the Yone goes a 5-0.
Just really nice, patient play from these two. When you're on Evelyn, you don't get to do the same level of just hard engage you would if it was a fed Vi, for example. When it's Vi, you see somebody, you press R, they probably die. When it's Evelyn, you see someone as, ooh.
Oh, the Fate Seal flash away does not matter. Sana is dominating. I have a feeling, Melvin, we're going to be seeing a Yone ban for game 2.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. As far as it goes, this champion is clearly unhinged. I think something that could happen instead, if you really didn't want to ban the Yone and wanted to save it for some of the other picks, is you might opt for something like taking a bit more of a defensive matchup, but frankly, based on just how this is going, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're right, Yone's just coming off the table.
They say unload the toad, uninhibit the ribbit. Well, I think we've got an unloan the Yone. It doesn't quite work, it doesn't have the same ring to it, but hey, I'm on the spot here.
That's fine, they're definitely going to send this one back for a return, as you do not want to seal with this. That is a scary recall roll, you can't be there mid.
I think he's getting engaged on mid. Royal actually taken down to half HP, and
they're already dead.
Godlike. Can you get any higher than Godlike? I forget what the highest killing spree that you can get is on the game.
I'm pretty sure Godlike is as far as it goes, but whatever it is, I have no doubt that we will see it this game, as they are just absurdly
Don't cast the
far
curse
ahead.
it here, Melvin. Don't cast the curse it.
It's Yone, though. It's actually just Yone. But, like, if it was Fizz, it would be a caster curse. But
no.
look, there's no committal. They don't have to do anything.
Did Sana just play safe for a second? Never mind, he's going right back on into a Malt. As out comes the Fate Unseal. The burn, is it enough? Red buff ticking. Sana charging forward, but it is not enough. And Sana now on the run as he is getting auto down. Headbutt Pulverize comes through. The turnaround. Explosive Cast comes in. Can they get onto Sana? I think they can. Going right on in. No way! The shield comes through, but the Yone will have to return. Oh, the flash jump does not land. And potentially another turnaround. The blast gun is there, but Exeter do not want it. Exeter will find another. Last picks up his first kill of the game, and the attention gets turned over to the Fat Man. But Royal will back out to the hills, and Exeter will leave with their heads held high.
Sana, this Yone is illegal! That flash right there, absolutely making a mockery of the enemy team. It looked so good, but look, here's the counterattack.
Cyclone coming through. Mortar now joining into the party as Sussex are looking for their 4th kill of the game. But look at the damage output from Refresh in a 1v2 situation. He almost picks up 1 kill. Mort getting engaged on the headbutt. Pulverized Mafia tanking up the tower shots, forced to flash out safety. But Exeter once again pick up the kill.
And this is the problem for Sussex. Look, they don't have a damage spread. It needed to be Fizz. Fizz needs to be ahead. You can see it, just the full armor inventory on Refresh's on. It was just a Vi, and oh god, they're already gone.
This is just a dirty, and the sling back, well, it won't dish out any extra damage because of the Zhonya's. Don't forget, when Yone does snap back, it acts somewhat as a Z ultimate, and it deals a little bit extra damage.
Frankly, I don't think they even need that extra damage this game.
No.
They could just remove that mechanic mid-game and they would still be doing fine, as it's 2 dragons for Exeter, map control everywhere, all of the tier 1s slain, none of their tier 1s lost, and when you have the backup of things like the Civet, like the Ornn, you don't exactly scale poorly, and the people that needed to be fed are. The game is in the pocket for Exeter, it's just about executing it cleanly, and not throwing these, 1,500 gold's worth of shutdown that they have on their team into the enemy's pockets.
And oh no, Fiora Nice now going to be getting engaged on the trample already coming through. There's the CC. The railgun will buy some time. The headbutt knocks a Fiora away. And, well, I think it's all just a matter of when, not if. Mafia picks up the kill and says, thank you very much, I am the greater tank on the team.
And they've had to opt for double Divine Sunderer for the max HP damage for any hopes of getting through Refresh's Ornn. And frankly, the Yone and the Evelyn are terrifying. The Ornn is unkillable. Civ is just vibing. They're going to happily farm, as that's another kill. We didn't even get a chance to see it. And frankly, I don't think that's because the observing was slow. I think that's just because how much damage Evelyn does.
And right now... goodbye.
Well,
goodbye, Mort.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, right now, Fizz isn't a champion. The Wukong wants to hit you. Mort wants to hit you on the Vi. As, oh, this could be the death. No, never mind. Snapback Chum comes through. Sana on the run. Is it enough? Cyclo coming in. Will the Yone die? The healing is too much. Are you kidding me? Finally, the Yone will get taken down. The shutdown goes over to Hoodie Owner. And, well, gods do bleed, I guess, as Sana will fall. And the Alistair will fall as well. Kills are coming through. And Sussex do pick up some very juicy gold bounties.
Yeah, there was a couple too many Zeals in the inventory, because that was the most overzealous stuff I've ever seen when you're this far ahead. You do not need to opt for these kind of plays. You don't need to dive the inhib tower. You could just walk over and take Baron. They can't contest you. As I feel like they're about to jump into the waiting arms of this Evelyn.
I don't think you want to be taking this more. He just waits. He picks up the Caress Assault and Battery. Trick 2 there just playing with his food. And will eventually eat his food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 7 and 1 on the Evelyn.
All 24 stacks nearly done. They are ever so close to this full Medjai's. And actually, I really don't like this lurking here. They have just got the ultimate up, though, crucially, so they're never really in that much danger. Oh, no.
Oh, no. You cannot use a playful trickster like that. The Zhonya's will get used, but he comes out. Chum the Waters actually denied very nicely by the last Caress. And Trick 2 will not be able to pick up his 8th kill of the game.
Yeah, the Zhonya's coming up big right there. The defensive tool, exactly what's needed, as Fiora Nice getting to, like, ships passing in the night scoot right by there. I don't think anybody was aware that they were in that position. That's clean,
just a James
criminal.
Bond.
Okay.
You know when you play, like, Hitman or something, and you're trying to, like, sneak through? You could do about 10 plays and not be able to pull that one off. As all the root coming through, explosive cask into another cyclone. That's the shutdown for Sussex. And you said the word, Melvin, overzealous from Exeter. And if they keep making overzealous plays like these, they could find themselves losing their goal lead, and all of a sudden, Hoodie Owner could become a champion, and Fiora Nice on this Wukong as well.
certainly is now plausible because the people who can carry these fights, the Evelyn, the Yone, the Sivir, are inherently squishy. None of these are these super bruisers that have a lot of base HP. Yone can regen it, but if they're chain CC'd, then that is not happening. However, watch this Evelyn top. I think that's another dead body.
Trick 2 there. Well, is there somebody sus in the map? Yes, there is. Trick 2 there goes a legendary 8-1 on the Evelyn, and this is all Exeter need to do. Find a pick, go and steal some gold. Find another pick, go and steal some more gold.
And frankly, it doesn't matter the amount of times they throw it into the enemy team and give over shutdowns when they have such nice vision control. Look at these wards for Exeter. As there's a flank from Trick 2 Deer, they have the Caress. This is going to go badly.
Call of the Forge God on to 2 members, and the Senna just gets absolutely obliterated. Now has 2 items, and well, the Dark Harvest Brox do damage. 3 members are down for Sussex. And Exeter will just turn their attention towards the Baron, and there is absolutely diddly squat that Sussex can do about it.
For a moment, it looked like they were going to try and trade the Ocean Dragon, but you do not have a say in that matter. Fizz and Gragas do not take that objective remotely quickly. Even if it was Jungle Gragas, that's not a quick clear. And I would say lucky for Hoodie Owner that they weren't spotted by the Evelyn right there, else that would have been likely another death. Oh, just wait for it. Ooh, spotted by a control ward, decide not to sprint it. That's a good choice.
I get the feeling that Trick 2 Deer right now is just thinking, okay, my mid lane is inting, other people are inting, they're giving away shutdowns. I need to be the one who doesn't int. I need to be the sensible one on the team. We can't be like G2.
I mean, when you have a 25 stack Medjais, it almost forces you to think like that. Because it's very high risk, not great reward right now for these kind of picks.
In goes a Yone again, flat dashes back on out, Royal is on the chase. And well, this time, Exeter unable to find kills, and we're getting to the stage now where the Yone can't do whatever they please like a Mundo, and get kills, and get away with it. They now have to be far more sensible, as there comes the excessive force through onto Refresh, a flash away, Assault and Battery, 2 collabs. There is no collapse from Exeter. It will just be the clean pick and shutdown gold going on over to that boy on the center.
Great opportunistic play right there. You can look at the map and just see that the Exeter squad was not pushing any advantage. They have this Baron buff, but it is all but halfway through now, and they've done nothing with it. Because Trick 2 Deer went for that play in the mid, they had to back off with Sana, and having both of those ultimates down on your key carries, it's almost like, okay, well, now we aren't allowed to threaten sides anymore. We have to be a lot more defensive about it. Laps doesn't really want to walk up on this Sivir, ideally, because the enemy team can still kill them pretty handedly, and that just meant Refresh, the one trying to do something on the side lane with their Baron, was punished pretty nicely, and not the biggest shutdown for the Orm, but something none for the less, and Sussex happy with that play. Happy with that play completely.
Melvin, I want to change the kind of tone of the conversation. Because we've had the first 15 minutes, or the first 20 minutes, where we've been like, wow, Exeter are deleting Sussex. That's impressive. Then we had the next 5 minutes where we were like, what on earth are Exeter doing? They're just throwing their lead, just to end the game. So now at the 25-minute mark, I want to bring us to the point of, what do Sussex need to do to be able to turn this game back into their favor, to bring themselves into a position where they aren't 13k goal behind, where they can hold back Exeter until they are at a point where they can take these 5v5 fights?
I mean, they've done the first step, which was repel the Baron push. They've, in effect, only lost this tower. The next step is don't die to the subsequent dives.
And this is a collapse coming through onto Sandon. So much damage from Trick 2 Deer. Assault and Battery might buy time to find the kill onto Trick 2 Deer, but he will use the last Caress out to safety, and is 2 kills for 1 in favor of Exeter. And even though Sussex find a good play, it is not enough. The Fate Seal picks up another kill. Never mind, there is no counterplay for Sussex. Exeter pick up a 4 quick kills for absolutely nothing. They turn their attention towards the mid lane. Inhibitor will pick up the inhibitor, and now can just charge on through the mid lane. Flash headbutt pulverizer coming on in. Well, the charm is up, but good flash away from Fiora. to keep themselves alive, and the damage from Sudden going under. Nexus, almost picks up the kill. Can they find the burn coming through? Not quite enough. Exeter will take down the Nexus and secure their Game 1 victory here in the SouthLAnder 2021 semi-finals.
That's one way to cause a mental boom right there. Just the diving fountain not even ending up dropping in the end. And pretty clean play from Exeter throughout. They were just on a sliver right there. And while we were trying to pivot at the end there to say how Sussex could have come back into it, when you are against such nice force tools from ahead, it's so tough. It's honestly so tough because you need to have good vision control, which you're not allowed to do because if you walk in, you die to Evelyn. Okay, that's one thing. You need to be able to repel them diving you. Well, they have Orn, so they don't actually need to commit anything to diving us. Okay, well, that's tough. And then you need to have defensive tools on top of that to avoid just getting popped by the Evelyn or the Yone. Well, if I use stopwatch for one, the other one kills me. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do? And Sussex, like we saw there, left out of options. The game had been pretty clean cut for a while. I was a bit worried when Exeter didn't actually get anything done with the majority of the Baron buff, but clearly just the gold lead spoke for itself at the end there.
I just want to look at one more negative, because I don't want to focus too much on the negatives, but I want to look at Hoodie Owner in the mid lane on the Fizz. Because we called it, we said, whatever you do, you can't use a Playful Trickster. You need to use it against the Fate Sealed to find the outplay. And then Hoodie Owner proceeds to use a Playful Trickster, and Sana's just like, oh, that like one escape tool that you had available to you is not there. Yeah, I'm just going all in and I'm going to murder you. So I feel that there were a lot of mistakes made mid lane. But on the counter side, this could be the 500 IQ strat coming in from Sussex saying, you know, we're going to let Exeter beat us, let them get cocky, then we're going to destroy them in game 2, completely obliterate their mental, and then take game 3 as if they're not even there.
Well, you know what? While I don't know if that's the best of plans, it is something that does happen, I would argue, far too often, where a team wins so decisively a game 1 of a series that they just pick less coherent comps. Because I would say that Exeter had a very coherent comp right there. You could see what they wanted to do, and while it didn't have the best recovery tools if they were put in the game, put out of the game early, they did have scaling at very least. When you have an Ornn and a Sivir, it's hard to not have it, and even your early game carries of the Yone and the Evelyn still do something later on, quite significantly as we saw. So hopefully they don't just throw that plan all away now because they're confident, but then again, that could have been the Sussex trap. We'll have to hope for them.
Final point then before we do throw to a break. For Sussex, what would you like to see them do differently in the drafting phase heading into game 2? More? Do you want to see more one picks or more one tricks or more of a meta kind of composition?
I think that one tricks are probably still the way to go if it's what you're most confident on. I think it's mainly just the thing of not being overzealous with them, because I don't think that the Vi was too problematic for Matt there. I think they did fine when they were allowed to, but it was almost over before it started for them. Vi not getting to do stuff pre-6 was really the issue, and then after 6, it was like, you're forcing onto lanes, but the Ornn's too tanky at this point, and if anything, I would just like to see them almost shake it off, refresh. You can play these champions, you know you can, just do it better, almost simply put. It's not something wrong with Fizz, it was just wrong with the decision-making in-game, and that's something that I'm sure they played tons of games against Yone and these kind of champions, so I don't have doubts that they can't do it, and it's more so just the thing of potentially first game jitters.
First game jitters. I was actually about to say, you know, first game of the day, potentially some jitters coming on in. But they've had that first game. They now have their backs against the rope. No more mistakes allowed from the side of Sussex. It's all or nothing. We're going to be throwing to a quick break. When we're back, we'll be bringing you game 2 of the best of 3 here for the SouthLAnder 2021 semi-finals. Wow, Melvin, that was a sweaty win from Exeter in game one. You know what? I think I need a bit of deodorant. Either way, Exeter secure a game 1 against Sussex, and now jumping on into game 2. Sussex are the ones that, oh my.
All right, I'll take over from that one. But so Exeter, very disgusting win pulling out right there. As don't know if you really thought about the long-term ramifications of spraying above you right there, but anyway, as we saw, that was pretty much the experience that Hoodie Owner ended up having in the mid lane, where it just went very slightly wrong with what seemed like a good plan and then just executed poorly.
Honestly, this is all around me, a little bit like Sana was all around Hoodie and all around the map in that game. It's my mouth as well. Just for anyone who ever wants to do this in the future, make sure you have some open windows before you do it. Like, spray it away. Don't, like, spray it directly into your face. You know, one of the bucket list. One of the bucket list. But, Melva, let's bring this back into some form of seriousness. I want to talk about the points that you brought up before we went into break about what Sussex need to do differently heading on into Game 2 to be able to take us to a potential Game 3.
And for those points, I think one of the things is it wasn't necessarily fully draft issue. There were some fundamental things, like I think in retrospect it maybe could have been refined by sending the Wukong to support and having the Gragas go top. That's one thing that could have made a difference, considering that means Ornn doesn't then get to optimize into early armor against both jungle and top. Because that was a problem we saw there where there was a good play from Sussex to try and punish this Ornn from pushing up, but they were just beyond the point of killing between these double physical damage champions. At least with Gragas up there in the top lane, it could have been slightly different. Wukong can then threaten much harder onto the Sivir. Not as good into the Alistar necessarily, but these are things to think about where it could have been just ever so slightly different and it goes completely the other way. But at the end of the day, it's all just down to that mid matchup. Get rid of this Yone. But even if you do, you're going to be playing against different kinds of champions. Echo, these are the kind of things that Sana can pull out in return. And frankly, they're all just as threatening. It's just that Yone is a particularly disgusting one right now.
And I'm really glad you brought up the idea and the point about how much armor the Ornn had, because this is something that I did want to bring up in the game, but we just didn't really have... There was no time for analysis. It was just a bloodbath, really, from start to finish, which was the fact that Hoodie on the Fizz, let's be honest, wasn't a champion until he had 2 items which happened, like, I don't even know if it happened by the end of the game. And then you look, Vi, Wukong, Senna, all champions are throwing out auto attacks against, what was it, a Thornmail, Ninja Tabby?
Thornmail, yeah, and then Sunfire on top of that. And that was just the first 3 items. It was only going to get harder from there for them to actually do something. The silver lining being that Senna does get to do some true damage with the Kraken Slayer, but when Ornn eventually gets into a Thornmail there, Senna's can effectively just kill themselves by hitting Ornn, because the damage can get reduced by such a hilarious margin. You can chunk yourself out to a 3rd HP just trying to shred through the infinite seeming health bar that Ornn can end up having once they've got to knock down some of these mythic items for their teammates.
Yeah. And by the time you've autoed the Ornn 3 times, there's a Yone that has probably killed you or an Evelyn. Either way, for Sussex, there is still hope for them. You know, they took down Portsmouth 2-0. We know that they are capable of winning games and winning series, having taken down our current reigning SouthLAnder 2020 champion. So, first game jitters potentially coming through, but again, for game 2, it's going to be that mid lane matchup. You talked about it, Melvin. You talked about some potential echo, but I have a feeling that we're not going to be seeing a Fizz coming through unless Hoodie, you know, blatantly says to his team, no, guys, I'm confident on the Fizz. I messed up in game 1. Give me one more shot.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those ones that you need to really just have access to the comms to know, because it's all about, this is a champion they do really like. It's their, basically behind Aatrox, with the exception of Alawi, then it's their most played. It's their most played standard mid lane champion. So when you look at it like this, it comes down to, okay, well, you kind of want to play it still. This is still your best. And you could see that the trade pattern was doing something. But what you can actually do then on top of that is, if you want to run it back, is It's then down to synergizing with your jungler, setting them up for ganks more so, telling them when you want to go for these kind of trades so that your jungler can be there to counter gank. Because in the 2v2, Fizz and Vi could have done a lot to either Yone or Evelynn, because both of these champions for the enemy team, very squishy, will get one-tapped by their duo. So heading into this pick ban, let's see if they can try and set themselves up for success as that Hecarim once again hits the ban bench.
Sussex over on red side in this game, and Exeter over on to the blue side. Hecarim and Camille both being taken away, just like what we saw in game 1.
Yeah, and there is that Alawi once again not being allowed for Hoodie owner. And you know what, on blue side, it's even better for the Exeter squad because you don't mind as much to ban out these kind of personal champions. So it now comes down to what happens with Senna for me, because both of these ADCs play a lot of Senna. It's the most played for both of them by a decent margin, which means there is a very important champion coming into this draft that almost just allows you a free weak side bot that becomes inevitable later on. And while we didn't get to see it that game, I think it could still happen, and especially with how well the Exeter mid jungle was playing, having a similar fallback solution on the same path as the Sivir is really only going to do well for them.
Now we see the Udyr ban coming through from Sussex because they aren't over on blue side. They can't first pick the Udyr, they don't want Exeter to first pick it. But the most interesting thing for me is the fact that Exeter banned out this Swain, and why do I get a feeling that we're going to be seeing Seraphine?
That is certainly a champion that could come out, but right now, just the very aggressive hover of this, that is Fiora Nice's Fiora that is on the enemy team, so not going to pick it in the end. But as for Seraphine, that's a weird one. I can't really say I expect to see them this game, mostly just because of how the first one played out, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think in a normal draft, definitely, Seraphine's a ridiculous champion. She's a disgusting 3-way flex minimum, has extreme potency even after the nerfs. Waiting to see if that's going to be a proxy pick, Rammus, but point being, just looking at this game, I don't think you really have time for Seraphine as much. It was just get stuff done quickly and kind of blitz your opponent out as fast as possible.
Well, the Senna is still open, so is the Sivir. We saw both the champions coming through in game 1, and I don't think the bot side was the issue for the side of Sussex, and this time they will be locking in the Senna once again.
Now, I haven't heard anything about this Rammus being a flex, so that might actually just be Matt's straight up answer into seeing Evelynn again, of going, okay, screw it, we're taking Rammus. Point and click CC. Same thing as Vi, but I don't know about that. We'll have to see, because, you know, Rammus is definitely not a champion that is really synonymous with the meta right now. And with that Amumu lock-in, that's certainly got to be a proxy.
That has to be a proxy. We'll wait and hear what the Amumu is, but I do agree with you that this Rammus looks questionable into Evelynn. I'm just trying to think now, what are the usual counters into the Evelynn? And we've just heard that the Amumu is barred.
But nothing about Rammus, so that does indicate to me it's a real Rammus, and that is likely going to be their solution to the Yone in that case. Because, as opposed to Evelynn, I don't think they do too much to them because they don't really stack the physical damage, they don't really stack MR, so in this kind of one-on-one matchup, it doesn't do much for Matt. They don't have remotely as much ability to kill. Annie is Leona is what we've seen here, so that is a pretty aggressive bot lane pairing coming out from the Sussex squad.
Senna Leona coming through. Leona can provide a lot of peel against Senna, and again, we're seeing a lot more point and click CC to go into this Evelynn, to go into this Yone, which has been locked in again, and you'd have to think is going to Senna in this mid lane.
And I quite like putting the Leona on this bot lane. It was something that we just saw with the Alistair and the Gragas. They were just coin flipping it between them. They can't do anything, so we didn't really get to see much from these two. Typically action-based supports. Hopefully now on this Leona, it's going to be a bit more of throwing down the gauntlet. Rel is still a champion that is available. Mafia Goat has played a good amount of that. There's obviously still the Alistair from last game up. Where they have the Bard even. That is a good point. I never forgot that Amumu's Bard. Now I say that, so I take that bit back, and that is why the Leona is the answer into Bard. Makes more sense now.
Definitely going to be a Bard top lane, right?
After the first game, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, but no. Alright, just to almost retcon myself a bit there. When you look at this Senna-Leona lane into Bard, that's something that they do have a good amount of chain CC together, and especially pre-6, Bard lacks the ability to almost break that chain, where if you are 6 on Bard, you could just chuck the R, like start spamming it on yourself to almost break the chain and get yourself time to portal out after. But pre-6, it's very scary. This could potentially be some big action, I would say, at around the level 2-3 mark.
It all kind of depends as well what Exeter lock in that ADC role. And, well, Hoodie owner said, give me that matchup again. I want to play the Fizz into the Yone. I have faith. It was a one-time luck for Sana. And, well, the Sivir being hovered. So Exeter looking to kind of run back through the Sivir against Senna matchup.
And this might just look like musical chairs for the supports of trying to see what they could do now of different champions paired with... it looks like it will be the run back. Oh, flipping. Last in the end, opting for the Ezreal as opposed to the Sivir. This is a lot safer into that Leona and Senna. I think that the Sivir would have been a bit of a rough pick, considering that Leona has so many abilities that can proc the spell shield. It doesn't really allow her to disjoint the combo, so opting for a far more defensive, far less push priority pick, most importantly. So this is something that we'll have to look at as the top lane matchup getting thrown down last, and this might be a bloodbath up there.
Darius and Jax are coming through, and well, now we will be jumping on into picks and bans once again, where players will lock in their actual champions rather than using the placeholders that they used for the purpose of the draft. Darius Jax. Yeah. Surely that has to be Darius favored, right?
As far as it goes, they picked it as a counter, so it clearly, in their eyes, is Darius favored, at very least to some extent. And with regards Stride Breaker, very big on this patch. Got a nice buff that it's kind of flippy whether you call it a buff or not. For most champions, it is effectively a buff, because they reduce the slow, but increase the range. Champions like Darius really only care about their effective range, because they always follow up the slow with their pull. So it doesn't really matter. It's more so just about how far they can fight from. And I think in this game we will see that quite a lot into some more of the enemy champions like the Yone, these kind of champs who want to be just edging on the maximum point of their range and hitting you until they can get chain CC. But in the laning, level 1 it's going to be a bit rough against the Counter-Strike, but after that, Fiora Nice could definitely start to show their 1v1 prowess.
Now, Melvin, this is your first time casting with me, so you wouldn't have known this before the cast, but I like to do something in some games, only special games. We played the Milky games, Milky's mini games. So in this mini games, you're going to be guessing the summoner spells that Fiora Nice will be taking on the Darius.
Ooh, I like this. And all right, I'm gonna think about as the other champions are locked in. Just to recap, so that was a Bard and a Sivir that's going to also go on the Exeter squad now. So I think looking at that, this is certainly going to be a Flash Ghost Darius. Yeah, I think it's going to be Flash Ghost.
Flash Ghost. Okay, we'll see whether that comes through. I'm excited. I want to see the Ghost coming through. That extra movement speed, combine that with a Stride Breaker, it could be very, very disgusting for the side of Sussex and Fiora Nice.
Oh yeah, Ezreal, not Sivir. Oh, alright. Yeah, no, I think it's still Ghost.
See, I think I saw the Sivir, and then I kind of looked away, and then the draft got, and then we left picks and bans, and that is why this has confused me slightly. Okay, so we do have the Ezreal coming in. Do you think Sussex have done better with this draft than they did in Game 1? And I know you said, Melvin, that the draft wasn't necessarily the issue, but do you think this is a better draft for Sussex?
I think I prefer it, and that's mostly because they have actually, got a more direct plan. Because the Vi was very centric around ganking at level 6. Rammus, level 3. Level 3 is their territory. Frankly, if they're really feeling it, Matt might gank level 2, potentially. And onto this Yone against this Jax, these are two champions that struggle to deal with the Rammus, because when you're forced to hit them, the other two in the lane have plenty of damage to rip through you. It's a similar run back where Hoodie owner will be able to pump out the damage early to kill this Yone, and when Rammus is holding them still, it doesn't matter as much if you're using your Playful Trickster to aggressively fight in and then disengage.
The other thing that I want to talk about as well is when you compare the matchups as to what we saw in Game 1, You no longer have a Wukong into an Ornn. You have a Darius into a Jax. You no longer have a Senna Gragas into a Sivir Alistair. You've got a Senna Leona into an Ezreal Bard. These are both much more gankable lanes. You don't want to be ganking a Sivir Alistair because you're never going to get onto them. Plus, you don't really have the gank setup that from a Gragas. You have a lot from a Leona pre-6. So there is a lot of gank setup here for Matt on the Rammus, and I'm very excited to see what Sussex will be able to pull out. Again, backs against the wall. They're one game down. A place in the grand finals are at stake in this game.
And I think this puts a lot of pressure and agency onto Matt on this Rammus. Because when you look at it, these are very swingy lanes. If Darius gets ahead of Jax, it's Darius at the end of the day. They're going to be able to do some really funky stuff where if Darius opts for the pull, as Jax is counter-striking, you can then walk away and Jax is disabled for just a few seconds, meaning they can't activate their E to stun you. So you can always kind of outplay that bit. And if they're ahead and they're allowed to aggressively take these kind of fights, it means that Evelynn doesn't really want to gank that lane, because I think every jungler knows the horror of ganking a Darius who has a kill up and then just 1v2s you, and then the game is done. Everybody's seen that happen plenty of times in their games. So I think if Matt can get particularly the top lane snowballing and make sure that Hoodiona doesn't get punished for some of these more aggressive mid-trades, then it can really go well for Sussex. They have great tools for handling the enemy champs otherwise.
Darius, Mordekaiser, Ilawi. 3 top laners I will refuse to gank if they already have a kill. It is way too scary. But I want to look at this jungle matchup again. We've put, let's say, the burden on Matt as he needs to show up in this game. And I think he does, just like Hoodie Owner on this Fizz. Because in game 1, Trick 2 there on the Evelynn was able to get a CS advantage over Matt, and this was after about 3-4 minutes. Was able to farm up quicker than Matt on the Vi, able to get a reset off, come back in, and just have a lot more activity than Matt was able to do on the Vi. And with the Rammus, I feel like the clear speed might be even slower.
Certainly, I'm almost sure that Rammus will struggle a lot more, especially on those single target camps compared to Vi, where she has the max HP shred from her Vault Breaker. It's going to be a lot tougher for Matt to actually clear through the jungle fast, which puts a lot more agency on them for the ganking. And this is the kind of thing where it really just defines how well you know the game state and how well you can communicate with your lanes, because this is something that I've seen far too much from Skarners, for example, let's say, I've seen Skarners do a lot of early stuff, level 1 to 3, but then they don't power farm to 6. This is what we want to see from Evelynn. Trick 2 needs to be power farming. If there's an opportunistic gank, take it. But if you don't hit 6 and you're not ahead in items, Evelynn does basically nothing. They need to be at very least at item parity with the enemies to be able to get this solo 1v1 explosive kill threat. Whereas the Rammus, from level 3 onwards, they just care about getting to their first item. Once they have that Chem Punk, then they're happy to sprint it. They will run you down, and the farming is secondary to them.
And that's one of the things that I really like, and it's this double-edged sword that you can get in terms of game styles that can come through. You can have one side that wants to be power farming to 6, won't be looking towards their lanes at all. And on the other side, you can get something like a Jarvan, a Rammus, something that wants to be ganking early on and has the setup for it with a Darius, with a Leona. And if the side of Exeter cannot play safe, and the side of Exeter give away kills to the Rams, you can't blame your jungle and say, oh, jungle didn't gank me like you do in solo queue, because you know that your Evelynn needs to farm to 6. You've been told, play safe, don't make any mistakes. But it's much easier said than done to play safe than it is in reality when you are laning against the likes of a Darius and the likes of Leona. And Melvin, I've got good news for you. You've won 100 Milky points because it is Flash Ghost on the Darius.
Alrighty, that is going to be a scrappy lane. And you know what? That screams to me, gank this lane, punish them for not having TP. Trick 2 I want to see them try and path potentially this game from bot to top, to maybe get something onto them, because when you're against a laner who doesn't have teleport, if you can put them behind early, especially in the top lane, and force them to recall, that builds such a disgusting XP gap for your laner. We saw it last game, actually, where when Hoodie Owner died, when they were trying to stop the crash, they ended up losing best part of a wave and a half, and at that point, the level gap was just too much, and they could never get back into it. This game, that could be the story with top lane. It's just dependent on how well Trick2Deer and Refresh can communicate together, and potentially even look for something like a cheetah recall in this lane.
And now I sense almost somewhat of a contradiction here, Melvin, because as you said, I agree with this, there is no teleport available on the Darius. So Trick2Deer on this Evelyn will want to, be able to force her back, and of course the Fiora nice Darius not to be able to gain XP, gain CS. But on the other side, we said before, the Evelyn wants to be power farming to 6. So what is the way to go for the Exeter jungler?
Exactly what we're seeing right here. This is how you turn what should be a tough gank that you don't really want to do into an opportunistic one. By pathing from bot to top in this game as the Evelyn, they will finish up there around the same time that Refresh wants to actually go for either this crash into the enemy turret, or for when Darius is going to have bounced the wave back and potentially be gankable. So I really like this pathing initially, it's just what they do with it, because it will put them on the right side of the map to make action happen. Similar case for Matt, they've decided top lane is the place to be. So by starting down here, they are forcing a lot, as this is a big trade mid already.
This is a big trade, it's a repeat of a previous matchup, and Sana playing into that minion wave, Hoodiona playing it very nicely indeed. Does have the health advantage, both mid laners running Ignite just like they did in game 1. But I get the feeling that Hoodiona is ready for this matchup, and he has not been using those playful tricksters as, let's say, ineffectively as he did in game 1.
Yeah, I think aggressively is definitely another way of saying of just like relentless oppressiveness. And what we see here is they have got control of this mid wave. It's just a matter of what they do immediately after, because they are completely Yone. Yone does not get the knock-up, crucially. That could have potentially turned into a kill. Good, smooth moves from Hoodiona. But with this refillable potion, only one stack left, you want to crush this wave and back, ideally, before Evelyn can stop you.
The Nimble Fighter is big. Hoodiona going in. The Ignite has been dropped. No, actually, Hoodiona did not use the Ignite himself. That was a kill. If he had just ignited, surely that was a kill there, Melvin.
It was certainly going to be close, as we see up here in the top lane, it looked like nothing was burnt summoner-wise. Fiora Nice did ghost, actually. So that is a critical cooldown right there. That means Refresh can't be chased as much in the next fight. But yeah, I agree. I think that Sana would have been dead there, but now they're kind of forced to stay lane. Yeah, this is pretty scary for both.
Hoodie has a flash, so does Sana. We could get a flash dash, Ignite. Surely for Hoodiona. I want to see something aggressive. I know he got beaten out in game 1.
This is deja vu.
This could be deja vu. Don't go in, Hoodie. Don't do deja vu. The wave will get crashed into Hoodie at owner's tower. Backs out, does not get hit by the knockup, as that could have ended badly. And even Mafia Goat is here as well, just waiting to see if Hoodiona will play this too aggressively. But nope, he's happy just to sit on the tower and just to farm up the wave, currently sporting a nice CS advantage over Sana here.
I was sweating right there. Literally, we saw this episode no more than, 30 minutes ago, really. It was the exact same way.
I had the deodorant at the ready right there, Melvin.
We got lucky for this time, as Hoodiona taking the matchup a lot more conservatively in these early few waves, and I really appreciate that while they didn't get the initial kill with the Ignite, that I think definitely also would have been either a kill or at very least a trade if they'd committed to an extra auto. They opted to play it more safe. They're winning this matchup on CS. They're not having to burn tools. They burnt the enemy's Ignite defensively. That's not really something you get to say too often, but they are winning this lane. They've come back with much better items, and hopefully now, in the stretch before level 6, they can make something happen.
Seeing a Matt showing up to top side. I think he just came and said, "Hey, Refresh, look at me, look how fast I roll." And Refresh just ignored him and continued on farming. It's like when your younger brother comes and shows you something very basic that they just learned how to do.
Yeah, just, well, clearly the basic thing was not ganking here, because Matt has not been able to get stuff done. That initial play onto top didn't end up picking up either the sums nor a kill from Refresh. And while it managed to barely get Fiora Nice a bit of lane priority where they were able to crash the wave and come back without losing too much, hasn't resulted in anything tangible. And as we can see here, Trick Dudia, power farming. They've already cleared their jungle twice. It's getting pretty big.
And this time it's Hoodiona who has the 6, and Sana does not jump. The waters comes through, no follow-up from Hoodiona, and it will force a back from Sana. And remember, no teleports in this mid lane, so this is just going to be a whole wave that Sana misses out on the Yone. And here comes the roly-poly boy. Will actually connect. Zenith Blade coming through right on to the bar. The Ignite ticking down. First blood goes to that boy for Sussex.
Oh, and that boy picking up the gold, exactly who you want to be feeding out of these three. The Senna and the Fizz are your primary carries. Darius, they're a luxury.
Oh, Hoodiona going in. Fate Seal, but it is Fate Seal for Sana. The turnaround, the flash away, flash forward. Trick 2 Deer will pick up the kill. Hoodiona can't do anything too tricky, and it will be the 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
Expertly done by Hoodiona right then. Great time to go for it, forcing Sana to use their own ultimate defensively. It looks like that didn't go on cooldown though, crucially. Not sure whether they'll know that heading back into lane. But, importantly, when the minions died, all of the blue team's minions were still up. So that is going to be a fair bit of XP.
This is aggressive top side. The Ghost has been dropped. Flasher forward, flash away from a refresh. He had the hemorrhage stacks on him, and he had to play that one cautiously.
And that is the ult down from Jax. Now, they are going to be a bit weaker if they ever opt into one of these fights again, so bit rough, but Evelyn is up there, does have the Embrace still available. This could be a dive on to Fiora Nice.
Refresh is pushing this wave in. Fiora Nice are trying to get the trade, pulling him under tower. There's the auto. There's nothing Trick 2 Deer can do. And Fiora Nice picks up the kill. Mafia stepping up. Cosmic Binding not going to be able to connect. The Ignite is a drop. Trick trying to turn it around, but unable to do so. And it will be the 1-for-1 on the top side of the map.
And trying to put the wave in a slightly better stop. You can see that they were just waiting so they could freeze it under tower when they were going to recall there. But really nice stuff from Mafia Go and Trick 2 Deer to be up here. Does manage to collect on the counter kill. Only an assist though for a refresh. So as far as this individual lane goes, big gold over to Darius, big gold over to Fizz, and big gold over to the Senna. So right now, looking pretty good for Sussex. They have all the material they need to make stuff happen. It's just not dropping the tempo. You have a very aggressive comp, and they're doing it here, getting the early dragon.
And Sussex using this mid lane pressure that they've been able to set up very well. Matt taken down low. Didn't have the smite available. That was close.
Yeah, a bit risky, as now they're feeling themselves in the right way. Hoodiona actually getting some really oppressive trades. And we're just seeing what was last game. These are the same trades from last game, but because it's from an even or ahead state, the Fizz becomes ridiculous to deal with. It was just a matter of not knowing how to play the matchup from behind from Hoodiona last game, or at very least not executing on it. And I much prefer how they're going about it this game, of look at this, just holding the wave there, as it looks like Fiora Nice just died to a gank right there. Not sure how. All cooldowns already down for summoners. Yeah. Evelyn.
I mean, you said, Melvin, that you wanted Trick 2 Deer to be ganking this top lane, and that's exactly what we're seeing. And we'll be putting this at Darius behind. Something else that I do want to bring up is the fact that we've seen Matt executing a fair number of ganks on the Rammus, and as a result, he is currently 20 CS behind Trick 2 Deer. He's 2 levels behind because Trick 2 Deer has been power farming and only recently has been ganking. Sure, we saw him step up in the mid lane looking for that potential gank onto Hoodiona, but nothing really came through of it. Trade now in the mid lane. Look at the damage onto Sana. Fate Seal will not be able to find its mark. Mafia Go just showing to say hi.
And that time it's definitely going on cooldown. Really nice stuff from Hoodiona here, just playing the matchup pretty cleanly. And they're freezing the wave in front of the tower. And look, Sana called the support up there to help them crash it, but because of the trade they opted for beforehand, just completely negates anything. And this CS lead is going to keep growing mid, and it's eventually going to turn to almost like this pressure gauge where they're going to need to send what looks like 3 people from the Exeter squad to try and stop this Fizz from just oppressing the Yone in lane.
It's been really impressive to see Hoodiona perform so much better in this matchup than he did in Game 1. But if there was just one thing I could ask for more, surely we want to be seeing Hoodiona pushing in these waves, you know, getting a nice big wave, pushing it in, rotating to the side lanes and trying to extend his advantage to other sides of the map as we see the engage coming through on the bottom side. Very nice tempered fate to buy time. Potential turnaround? No, we'll just be The Q are thrown out, and Hoodie Owner has to be careful. A flash is available for Trick 2 there, but he won't go all in.
And this is problematic. With Matt not in the immediate area, Hoodie Owner knows that if they go for a fight... Oh, hold on.
That's a cleanser coming through, and that boy following up Solar Flare will come out, and Lapster is forced to flash under the safety of his tower.
Okay, and that was a pretty progressive for Royal right there, managing to get both of the Ezreal summoners out, and in return they have this Rammus in the area. They could look for a dive onto bot, which I would really like to see because Matt needs to do something. This Evelyn's about to tick over to level 9, and a 3-level lead in the jungle is really not what you want to see when they've also been getting more effective ganks off. I like this is good setup.
No cleanser for Lasp, no flash for Lasp, only has the Esser, or pardon me, only has the dash, the blink away to safety. And here comes the wave, here comes the ganker from Sussex. The roll in, the flash CC, the point and click CC, a good blink away, but it is not enough. Last gets taken down. Matt picks up the kill. Royal tanking the tower. Sorry, it's actually Matt tanking up the tower. He'll tank one more tower shot. There comes the final auto, beautifully executed by Sussex.
Yeah, and while it looked a little bit scuffed at the very beginning, they did manage to get but a punish play onto Fiora Nice once again. This Darius is getting focused out. And you can see, while it's 2 kills into the bot lane, the important part is that plates are going to be pretty much equally traded, top and bot here.
Exeter saying, if you want to gank bot, we will gank top. And very smart from Trick 2 there. And maybe a bit of miscommunication coming through from Sussex. They should know, if we are making a play on bot side, we need to play super safe top side.
Yeah, this is just one of those problems that if you're not fully coordinated in comms, it's something that people don't predict, but hold on here.
True Shot Barrage coming through as well. Matt just getting a rip down. Hoodie Owner showing up. The Fate Seal will pick up the kill for Sana. Their first kill of the game.
And that's the problem. Just because of the little execution errors in bot, we saw Matt had to use their flash to get the taunt and stop them escaping. As we see a big trade here, Evelyn already lurking.
Fiora Nice is just getting bullied. Doesn't even need the presence of the Evelyn, but Evelyn is here. Never mind, I think Trick 2D's presence was definitely necessary, and Fiora Nice is getting beaten down 1 and 4 on the Darius.
And Mafia Goat bringing this bot lane to mid right now, just trying to help Yone push the wave, avoid another similar freeze, but you know that Evelyn was top. You have to see this coming.
The knock-up comes through, there's a Chilling Smite, surely there is no outplay, the charm in, and Sana picks up the second kill, the collapse coming through. And Rift Tower will be dropped. This is going to pour gold back on into the mid lane. And all of that hard work that Hoodie Owner did to establish a lead is just thrown down the gutter. 2 towers destroyed in quick succession for the side of Exeter.
No. Can we get a gold look at this one after that, just to see? Yeah, now it's massively in the favor of the Yone. They probably picked up what looked like about 500 gold off of that single play, so it was basically equal all the way up until that moment. And Hoodie Owner had very good control over the wave, but right there, Trick 2D, the power of the jungle is just too oppressive. These farming junglers that then get super scary ganks off, it's just hard to fight them. If you don't get stuff done, an insane amount done in these first few levels, they just become hilariously oppressive. We're seeing it here, and Trick 2D really nice on this Evelyn.
Let's not forget as well, this is not just because of Trick 2D. This is a Mafia Goat consistently being able to roam, and meaning that Hoodie Owner has not been able to play super aggressively because he doesn't know where the Bard is. Yes, Trick 2D has played well, Refresh has played well, but so has the support.
Certainly so, and that's one of the benefits of having this Ezra. We're talking about how it doesn't have the same wave clear, doesn't have the same late game reliability that the Sivir does, doesn't do as well in team fights necessarily, but one thing Ezra will always offer is the added safety in lane. This champion is almost unkillable if you don't burn everything beforehand, and that was what we saw earlier. The only reason that bot play worked for Sussex was because they had already set it up beforehand and used everything. As
Collapse now onto Refresh on the top side. Fiora Nice not too far away. Sana is showing up. Look at the damage map, pretty much finding a 1v1, but Sana has now shown up. The Apprehender comes through. And Hoodie Owner showing up there to the party as well, but Chum the Waters will not connect, and Sana just got to run down Hoodie Owner. No way out for the fish, and it is most certainly grilled a fish for lunch for Sana. 3-1 now on the One.
And while they have smooth moves on the Dukes from this Fizz, it's not going to mean much when they just have no reason to fall back as... Oh god, that's the difference between armor and MR. Ooh.
Your Bramble Vest, your Ninja Tabby will not help you, Matt, when it comes to Trick 2 there.
That was just disgusting. The 15 stat
teleport bot side. Oh, the Tempered Fate is beautiful. And that boy, well, that boy is about to die. They'll look to turn it around onto Mafiago, who flashes out to safety. In goes Royal. No, the shield is huge from the Guardian, but the Ignite ticks down nonetheless. Royal is on the run, but there is no way out for there. Leona will be able to find another stun with the Shield of Daybreak, but the Leap Strike comes through, and Refresh will go on to a killing spree.
And frankly, not too bad from the Sussex bot lane to be able to force out one counter kill. Still not in their favor, obviously, as this means Ezreal's going to be able to push this in and potentially collapse that tower. It looks like no, they're just going to send the minions in. They're happy to stay in this lane. And you know what? When you can get away with plays like that, I can see why you'd want to be down here still.
Hoodiona, just, again, freezing the waves, waiting for the opportunity to be able to shove wave after wave back on in without being caught out by Trick 2 there. Currently 11 kills to 6 in favor of Exeter. The entire top side of the map is very, very strong for Exeter. But again, for Sussex, how do they get back on into this game?
Well, I feel like this is going to be the story of the series for certain. Hopefully we can make it to a Game 3 for Sussex. But looking at it right now, it's really about playing for your center, because they're the only one that is like on parity with where they should be, and they will accelerate very quickly once this support item's fully ticked over and they can just chain get souls. They've got the first level of it, but looks like they're not going to get the chance.
The Tempered Fate comes through again. Two-shot barrage very nicely flashed by that boy. Is it enough? Royal will just get sent over to the Death Realm. SouthLAnder buying time, and Royal actually going to be able to survive from this. A very tanky Leona indeed.
Yeah, great stuff actually coming out from Royal. Like their perfect flash Q onto the Evelynn to stop them being able to instantly burst that boy out of the Tempered Fate. So just good synergy between these two. And this is one of the things about when you have the funneled center, is you effectively get an extra champion, because your support gets to build real items. They don't just get to build one item and then maybe get something with it if the game goes super long. You can see this Leona actually had their Chempunk around the same time as Matt has theirs on the Rammus, so definitely not an insignificant amount of HP, and it, you know, showed dividends right there. The whole enemy team out of this 3 bot laners could not break through Royal's defense, and it's definitely something that you're going to need to look to. This bot lane is your strongest point. Play around it, get people gooning down there, and try and snowball that ahead. If you can, counter-gank the Evelynn next time she comes down, and you'll pick up a big snowball shot down.
Well, here comes the counter-gank of Matt making his way down, but Trick 2 there is aware and will back out himself. And now, Sussex do not know that Trick 2 Deer is here. The engage comes through. Solar Flare on a top, and that will be Mafia taken down. And now Trick 2 Deer just gets stunned down, forced to ult over the wall and out to safety. But the Yone making his way down, and Hoodiona is not far behind, so it could be another counter gank from the side of Sussex. But while all of this is going on, Refresh just will take the Rift out by himself.
And you could see with the dragon spawning, that was Trick 2 Deer throwing down a blue ward under the enemy tower, actually sees Matt come on down, and then still ends up going down for Mafiago. They had the Tempered Fate about to be up, I believe, but goes massively in the Sussex favour.
The Fate Seal very nicely sidestepped by that boy. Royal getting burnt down, but here comes the Rammus. The taunt lands onto Last, forced to burn the clothes. Salah will get taken down. Shutdown going over the way onto Hoodiona. Last is next. There is no Arcane Shift available. It's a double kill for the Fish, and the Fish will strike back. Revenge of the Fish, let's call it. And Mountain Drake is up. Sussex could look for that, as there is a minion wave crashing on into the mid lane.
And you absolutely love to see a Mountain Soul if you are Sussex this game. When you're against Evelynn, you're against Jax, even Yone, these have hilarious damage numbers. And frankly, if you exclude the Evelynn from this, everybody on the Exeter squad is mixed damage. So dual resistance is very, very big value. This is going to be so important. If they can snowball these Drakes and collect the next 2 for Soul, it will actually negate a lot of Trick 2 Deer's prevalence in the late game. Because when it's paired with items like the Zhonya's, like the Bramble Vest, these kind of things that just are little resistance items that make the enemy champions a bit tankier for the rest of your team, you can then start to look at things like potentially a Banshees for Hoodiona. Items like this that can just solely be dedicated to negating Trick 2D picking you. And this is something that is going to be so necessary as we get onto the later stages of this game that it looks like we will be making it to.
We have nearly a 3k advantage for Exeter, but yet it is only a 2-kill advantage. It's the 3 towers to 1, the early tower plates that the side of Exeter were able to secure, which have given them their goal lead. And probably the biggest question mark for Sussex right now is the fact that Fiora Nice on the Darius is only 1-4. He's so much weaker than Refresh, and that Jax is going to be consistently scaling and scaling.
As Sana is getting chunked out here, that is dangerous.
Solar Flare doesn't fully connect, and the True Shot Barrage will be sidestepped by Royal, and that boy engage and fight on the top side. Matt gets taken down, and Trick 2D will be able to secure their 5th kill of the game. And while Sussex try to make a play mid, Exeter are able to find 2 on the top side.
And this is a problem. When you're behind on one side of the map, playing to that side doesn't work. You can't get things done. It doesn't matter how, like, good it looks. When it's a 2v1 onto a Fed Jax, if you don't have perfect knowledge of where all the other champions are for the enemy team, it's not worth it. Especially against Evelynn, Bard. These are champions that can be literally anywhere at any point in time, and they probably have a reason for it. Evelynn can be lurking in any bush. Bard can slide through every which wall and be quickly in range for that Tempered Fate that can really just swing a fight completely out of your favour. So you need to be careful when you try and play the map super wide for the Sussex squad here. I would much prefer to see a focused beeline onto wherever that boy is. I want to see them going to that boy.
That boy needs to be the focus for the side of Exeter, but it is something that we've been noticing in fights. Whenever Sussex look for a play on one side of the map, Exeter are half of the time able to prevent anything from happening. But even in the times where they don't, they're able to find something on the other side of the map. And on the flip side, when Exeter look for something onto Sussex, Sussex die half the time, but if they don't die, they still aren't able to find something elsewhere on the map. And it's that proactivity from Exeter that is what is keeping them ahead in this game.
I mean, if you just look at the minimap, it almost speaks volumes, where this is just a pretty disgusting 1-3-1 comp for Exeter, where you want to pressure onto Yone, but if you pressure onto Yone, Jax can run you down the top side. How do you ever force onto Ezreal Bard mid? And frankly, we were talking about it in the setup for the first game, no matter what you do, there could always be an Evelynn there to swing the fight back in their favour. So, really nice comp coming out from Exeter. They're executing it nicely, and you can see they have great understanding of how to make it work. At this point, it's just about how they can keep these side laners ahead. As we see, actually, some pretty unique itemization from this Yone, opting for that item that is the tanky QSS.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
What is it even called?
I haven't got a clue. Silvermere Dawn, there you go. I remember seeing it in the patch notes the other week, and I thought, oh, they've added a new item, because I had never seen it built. I think it's a pretty underrated item, frankly, actually. It is basically the equivalent of Cleanse.
Well, that boy has been engaged on, but that boy will be able to survive. And Exeter doing exactly what you asked them to do. But the crucial thing is that Trick 2D burnt the flash from that boy, but did not use the ultimate or the flash himself. A trade coming through on the bottom side, and Sana might want to turn this. Good stopwatch coming through from Hoodiona. There is nobody else here. This is just a 1-for-1 playful Trickster and a dash out to safety. Does Sana want to keep on chasing this? Does take a couple of tower shots due to the Ignite ticking, and Chum the Waters was used but did not connect.
Well, it kind of just dissuades Sana from fully chasing, because they did have flash up. You could have seen if they stacked up the 3 Qs the full commit, as this is going to be something. Evelynn nowhere in the range. There is potential if they opt to keep it going. This
is a 3-item Jax here, and Fiora Nice only has a 2. Refresh on the run, but never mind, it is a 4-on-1, and the Jax will get shut down as Matt picks up the gold.
Crucially, though, the amount of pressure that Refresh put out means that this is almost certainly an extra dragon coming out. Hoodiona will have Chum the Waters up in like the next 10 seconds, I believe that's going to be. So they could potentially look for a collapse fight immediately after this. But the portal, crucially, this Bard, it's such a great pick when you want to play this kind of scrappy cross the map, everywhere, always action, where it's just got so much utility for just enabling this kind of style. Where any other champion, you can't get away with that right there. You need flashes from everybody to get out of that pit, or sprinting it into bot. But with Bard, portal out. It's groovy. We're good.
Either way, Melvin, I'm so glad that in this game 2 is such a closer affair than game 1. I think by this point, game 1 had already ended with Exeter having something like a 15k gold advantage. Now, it's only a 2.5k gold advantage. Both sides having 2 Drakes. Both sides having win conditions that they can play around.
And I'm going to say, assuming Trick2Deer doesn't just kill the first person that stands in mid, this is a bit of downtime where we can take a look at itemization. As we see, everybody's coming off of their bases around Baron spawn now, so it's going to be very important to see how well both teams can take that objective. As for the blue team, Yone and Jax are the key people. These are the ones that do the most damage to the objective with that Triforce and that Shield Bow. You need them around if you want to be able to take it. Evelyn and Ezreal, very champion-focused damage. This Duskblade and the Rabadons, these are all very good at killing people, as we see mid.
The engage coming through, but keep an eye on Trick2Deer. He's looking for the flanker, looking to join on in. There's a teleport coming through. Mafia will run for the hill. In goes Trick2Deer, as the ultimate will come out, and surely that's going to be the kill. No, Royal able to flash over the wall, but Trick2Deer following, able to find the charm as well, and Royal will get taken down. SouthLAnder buying time, but not enough. There's just one kill going the way of Exeter.
Alright, we see Matt does have flash, is 3 levels down though, so Trick2Deer can attempt to force this Baron, and they will be favoured in the smite fight.
That's 3 levels, that's about 100 damage difference on the smite, I think, and will make it much easier for Trick2Deer to be able to secure this. However, Hoodiona has the ultimate available, but it looks like it's going to be too little, too late to come through. They're actually going to be able to find the pick onto Sana. They find the root. Is it enough? Chum the Waters almost connecting, and the fate sealed to take Sana out to safety. Here comes the Rammers. He's greedy. He wants it. Can he find the CC? Sana trying to turn this around. The Tremors will pick up the kill and will pick up the shutdown for Matt. Now potentially a collapse onto last, but here come the rest of Exeter looking to turn it back around onto Hoodiona. True Shot Barrage will chip away at Hoodiona, but he is out to safety.
And frankly, they should have just left Sana to die there, because these are the kind of fights that when you're against the team with Baron, you want to take these kind of fights. As long as it's not a decisive loss for you, you waste so much effective Baron time that the enemy can be pushing with. And when you can get away with that against a 1-3-1 comp, especially taking it off a side laner, that is so crucial. Because it means now whoever is against Sana in the side can actually still wave clear. Silver lining. But however, none of your champions really wave clear too quick anyway, so not the greatest in the world.
And we're seeing Exeter finding those picks. Something that I do want to bring up is we talked in game 1, or we actually talked after game 1 because we didn't have time in game 1 to talk about the itemization and how many armor items Refresh had available, because the fact was Hoodiona didn't have any damage on the Fizz. Now on the flip side, in game 2, you've got a Jax, you've got a Yone, you've got an Ezreal on the side of Exeter. It's a lot of AD, and we're seeing a lot of armor being picked up by Sussex. But this just means that it's perfect. It's a playground for Trick2Deer, and he can look to assassinate any person he wants.
Yeah, the only MR items, that's Silvermere Dawn on Yone and the Verdant Barrier on Evelyn, but it looks like
nope.
MR doesn't matter when you're dead.
I mean, that's what happens. I mean, we talked about how Matt didn't have any MR before, and Trick2Deer was able just to run through him, and, well, with a Fizz, he's inherently a squishy champion, and that's exactly what Trick2Deer can put through.
Scariest part, though, is Trick2Deer can do that to anybody on the enemy team. Because of Evelyn's W shredding a ridiculous percentage. If she's maxed it, I think it's like 35% MR, but we're not going to get time for this play.
Collapse on the top side, but it will be returned. Collapse. Trick2Deer showing on upper to the party. Railgun will find a shield, but it will not be enough. Refresh picks up the kill onto Matt, and a Fioranizer forced to run for the hills as we will just now see Exeter collapsing on into the inhibitor towers in the mid and the top lanes, and it should be the base cracked in their favor. We said Sussex had their backs against the walls in this game. They have to win this game if they want any chance to advance to the SouthLAnder 2021 finals. One inhibitor is down, potentially the second will fall as well, but Exeter, they're just going to back off for now.
And the dragon spawning in 1 second. The question is, will Sussex try and contest this? Do they leave it over? They don't really have a say in the matter. It looks like it's already going to be gone. They don't have a global that could steal it. Nothing on the table. And frankly, it's just Exeter snowballing this beyond belief after that one Baron play.
We saw in Game 1 Exeter run rampant against Sussex, but here in Game 2 we've seen Sussex put up a much better fight. And we've seen Exeter have to play a lot cleaner, a lot more sensibly, but they have still done it very, very well. We've seen them, we talked about it earlier, no matter if they lost something on one side of the map, they were able to find something on the other side of the map, and Trick2 has been the catalyst for that proactivity.
Certainly does make Exeter look like a scary team heading into the potential finals, and it is going to be on the back of Trick2 on this Evelyn. I don't know if we go to a Game 3, or regardless if it is in the finals, that we would ever see this Evelyn for Trick2 coming out again, because it is being played so well. Great, just passive early game, allowing opportunistic ganks to find you almost, and being in the right spot to capitalize on it. As this is terrifying, because you have a ward in that bush, you would expect to be safe. Lies.
Oh, wow! Hot damn! Trick2 just deletes that boy off the face of the rift. Something that I did want to bring up is we talked about the point and click CC that Sussex have. Well, there's a Banshee's Avail on Trick2. He's got 25 Magi stacks. I was just wondering, could we hear from production exactly how much AP is available for Trick2 currently?
Oh, my guess is going to be like 730. This is going to be...
Is this another milky minigame?
Let's find out.
Okay, we're also going to see Hoodie Owner get deleted on the bottom side. Inhibitor will get taken down.
No, there's the displays over it, so we can't see it, but doesn't matter.
230, I see. Ooh, that might be another...
Ability
how much
power.
Ability power for Trick2? Yes. We're close.
Yeah, okay, in the right range, but at the moment it doesn't look like the number matters too much to Sussex, as they're getting forced in on the enemy base, all 3 inhibs down.
There is a Baron up in 40 seconds time, but Exeter do not want to wait. Fiora Nice so low, and it doesn't matter. Exeter go in, there's the fate sealed. Surely the kills, Royal will fall, they want more, they find the knock-up. The leap striker forward will not be able to find another. The CC comes through, leap forward at 1-for-1, but it's only a GA, so it's just a 1, makes that 2 for nothing. Last picks up the kill, goes under the Nexus, but this time he falls under the Nexus tower, and Exeter will advance to the 2021 SouthLAnder finals.
And it was a much closer game than we saw in the first one. Sussex really fighting for their life right there, trailing it back, and it was mostly on the back of that bot lane, that boy and Royal really dragging the team through, but it was just the cross-map plays that Exeter offered, the clean execution with this 1-3-1 comp, so nicely done, and frankly, it's hard to play against a team playing that well.
It's difficult. Sussex picked up their game from Game 1 to Game 2 without a doubt, and it was very impressive as well to see after what was a beating in Game 1 to be able to pick themselves up so well, but Exeter just looked so clean. And I'll go to MVP. For me, Melvin, it's got to be Trick2.
Yeah, I think I have to give it to them too. We saw that in the first game, them and Sana were just insane on the map, but once Hoodie Owner picked up their game in the second one, it was a much harder experience for them to actually get fed on this Yone, having to opt into much more defensive itemization. So, you know, Fizz really putting the fear of God into him in this one. I think that leaves it to either Trick2. The only other person who I would maybe give it to would be Refresh, and that's because of the just clean side laning, always putting Fiora Nice out of the game with the help of Trick2. But then again, when you have to say the person's sentence as a qualifier for everything, I think, yeah, Trick2 is the right MVP for this series.
And in the finals next week, facing against possibly Bristol or Bath, we've already seen how clean Bristol were when they took down Surrey 2-0. Honestly, it's going to be a grand final, and it's going to be an absolutely thrilling best of 5.
Oh, certainly. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a fun time, and it's going to be great to build on these teams heading into next week. Getting to see how Exeter can almost work up their strategy, because we did see a one note from them this week. It was similar comps in both games, with minor differences being the Sivir to the Ezreal, this top lane matchup being a little bit shifted, but frankly, it was a similar game plan throughout, and the execution was just well done in both. But when you're playing against a team with the caliber of potentially Bristol or Bath, then it could be a bit more of having to reach in the pocket and try and find some other options for them.
And certainly, come those grand finals, you can be sure that the Evelyn is going to get banned away, maybe the Yone as well. But that is all in the future. The League of Legends grand finals will be next weekend on Sunday, same time at 2 p.m. for a best of 5. We've got the CSGO grand finals coming through as well on Saturday, so make sure to tune in for that. Follow on Twitch so you can get updates for when we do go live and bring all of that action to you. I've been Milky Serial, joined by Melvin Isol. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you these semi-finals, and we'll be back next week for the grand finals. And until then, stay tilt-proof on the Rift, and we'll see you next time.